The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Cox Communications, connecting Virginians to their government. We're really pleased to have a delegate from the Hampton Roads area, Delegate Gordon Helsel. Good to see you, sir.
Oh, thank you, Woody. Glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. We know how busy you are. This is the short session this year, 45 days, and I know you're working very diligently. Can you tell us a little bit about the Hampton Roads area and the district that you represent?
Sure. I represent my home district, of course, the city of Poquoson, so I'm very proud to talk about them. Right next door is the city of Hampton, which houses Langley Air Force Base and one of the centers for NASA. Great working waterman communities. We've still got lots of guys that get up really, really early and go out and do lots and lots of hard work so that we can enjoy the seafood in a restaurant or in our own homes. York County, of course, is in the district as well, a growing county. A lot of military have moved to that county for their school systems. They also moved to Poquoson because of the school systems. They have a reputation of excellence, and so I probably have the best district in Virginia, quite frankly. I'm within 30 minutes of any one of my constituents, and I don't know that anybody can boast about a district more than I can in terms of it just fits me. It just fits me. It's not time consuming, and I can get to those folks because that's what I like to do. I like to talk to people, and you show me what the problem is. I don't like to talk about it on the telephone. I can't see anything.
Right.
So very proud to serve the 91st District.
Great. Well, what's the difference? Because you were a member of the City Council and you were mayor. Now you're here. You're one of 100 people in the House of Delegates versus being one of maybe 5 or 6 on the City Council and then being one as mayor. So has there been a real transition in that regard?
I think you can not have a good transition if you haven't been in local government, let me say. Local governments did a lot for me. The thing I miss, Woody, is that I can no longer go out and touch, if you will, the folks in the city of Poquoson. I just can't do that anymore. I try. You know, on weekends, I try to get to them, and some of them think I'm still mayor, so they call me about their issues, and that's the beauty part about, in my opinion, local government. You can do that if you will. You can get up close and personal with every constituent. Here, I've got 80-some thousand in the district. It is very difficult for me to communicate with those folks over the phone. Any other communications items that you want to talk about, but the transition was smooth because I knew what I was coming here for.
Sure.
And we couldn't get it done on a local level, just could not. So I chose to give up something I loved, and I really did, to come to a place that can make things happen, not only for my district, but for the Commonwealth as a whole.
Sure. And I take it that the business you ran for a number of years before you retired, and I think your sons run it now.
My sons, yes, sir.
You know, have really informed the kinds of issues you pursue here as well in terms of attracting new businesses to the state and maintaining the ones we have.
Exactly. exactly. You know, one of my real interests is with the Langley Air Force Base project that you and I had a brief conversation about. Langley has not been bracked, but
Base realignment.
base realignment,
Right.
but that's a better way to put it. But we want to prevent that, and so over the past 3 years, I've had budget amendments to try to convince, you know, the folks that are making the decisions, whether we get the money or whether we don't, that Langley Air Force Base clearly has some issues that if we don't act and we don't complete the project, I just see it as money thrown away.
What's the nature of the project there?
The project for Langley is to buy what I call safe zones or encroachment zones.
Okay.
But what you get for buying this property is you get possibly, and we're in negotiations with the Air Force now, possibly a new command, an intelligence type command, where with that command comes about 400 folks that, I mean, that's jobs.
Right.
And I know that the Commonwealth, that's a big deal when you're creating jobs. We've also been told that there may be a new fighter, even though we've got the F-22, that there may be another fighter coming along that would come to Langley. That'd be the case. Hampton, York County, Poquoson, we all have an opportunity to be able to you take the burden of taxes to some extent off of the folks that live there.
Sure.
And you know, I'm part of the group now that has to make that decision about, you know, putting more taxes, you know, on the district that we live in. And you know, I don't have any intentions of supporting any kind of tax increase.
Right. Right.
And the money that we've asked for this year is certainly not going to impact the budget to any degree at all. But I think Langley needs to move forward, and it's a good time to, you know, get those relationships with the Air Force. Should BRAC, base realignment, ever show up, one of the first questions, and it happened in Oceana, is, you know, how much of this land can you buy? Or, you know, we can't have something in here that, you know, that a plane could fall anywhere.
Exactly.
So, you know, I think we're on the right path. I think we have justified it in terms of testimony to appropriations. They understand it, have been just so good about it. But they see it the same way I do. They see jobs and a boom to Tidewater. And that's an awful lot of people that would benefit.
Well, that's critically important in another aspect as well, because of the cutbacks in Washington, especially the across-the-board cutbacks,
Right.
sequestration, which half of it went to the Department of Defense. The military installations in the Commonwealth, and I think there are about 44 overall,
yes.
and you include the Pentagon,
Yes.
private contractors. Virginia's been hurt, so saving Langley is crucial. There's no question about that.
It just, you know, it's just one of those things that we have to do. We did initially with sequestration, we did initially lose some folks from Langley. But this would, I believe, bring them back. I think it will open up areas of opportunity for my district in terms of subcontractors in the intelligence world. You know, they're growing at a very, very fast rate. So I like the idea that where I live, you know, we've got an intelligence command, and we have the possibilities of having a new fighter, and nobody complains about the noise.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of it, but, you know, it's noise of freedom is the way I look at it.
Right.
But,
Well, there's another initiative, the Veterans Facility, and by the way, we want to thank you for your service.
well, thank you for saying so, Woody.
But that Veterans Facility is another important initiative, isn't it?
I'm really excited about that one. Had a conversation with the majority leader, who has just been, oh God, I can't say enough about Kirk Cox.
Kirk Cox.
I cannot say enough good things about him. But what this comes about because of some funding that the governor, some project that the governor did away with. So the plan is to pick that money up and carry it to Northern Virginia and to Tidewater, a veteran service center. So the veterans are going to a place that's much closer, a lot more up to date, and they certainly deserve that. I see no need for a veteran to have to drive 6 or 7 hours, especially in some of their conditions.
Exactly.
Given what they did for this country, I can't think of a better place to spend money than on a veterans facility that would encompass Tidewater, and we've got, as you know, many veterans and an extreme amount of military. So yeah, I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about Northern Virginia getting one as well. Anything that I can do to help veterans, I'm going to do it. And they're a special group. Everybody knows that. They don't ask for anything special, but if we can provide them with a center closer to home, I think it would. I think that's going to be a really good day for the veterans. I really do.
And of course, your district at Tidewater Hampton Roads is very important to the commerce of the Commonwealth. We were talking earlier about some of the transportation problems you have in the city. I think you mentioned there's only two ways in and out.
Well, specifically in the city of Poquoson, we have 2 ways out in the event of an emergency. If you go back to Hurricane Isabel, the entrance coming from Hampton, you couldn't even see it. I mean, it was 6 or 7 feet of water there. So then we had to move over to Victory Boulevard. And at one point, we had trees down across there. And the people just they had to sit there, Woody. They couldn't get out. And so in talking with the Secretary of Transportation, what he tells me is he'd like to do something different about how money is appropriated. And $2.8 billion, I think, is transportation dollars going into transportation. And I think what he wants to do, rather than these projects taking years and years and years, the Victory Boulevard, the one one of them out of Poquoson, has been on a list for 15 years. And he thinks that that's just not the way to go. So his idea to kind of spread all of that money out among the districts and let the districts decide what's important or what's more important than something else. In my district, I look at it as an emergency measure without any question. We've got NASA sitting there with, I think, 19% of our population in Poquoson are NASA employees. They can't get to work. So leaning a little bit on NASA as well to help out with that project. So I have notified the city managers and the boards of supervisors just to let them know how this thing is working. They're in the process of sending me projects and trying to justify those on paper. And then my instructions were to bring those back to the Secretary of Transportation. He wanted to look at those things. And of course, whatever you do, if you've got an emergency that exceeds what Poquoson needs, then I would say you've got to spend it there. Repairs, of course. I think you've got to take care of repairs. But then after that, there are some projects that need to be funded. Victory Boulevard is another good example of an area that the state owns the right-of-ways, so there's no acquisition. We're talking about pipe and asphalt, quite frankly, and awful lot of subdivisions off of that road. Again, trees go down. They're going to have to stay home and deal with the water.
So that's really a three-pronged issue. It's a commercial issue in the sense that it affects businesses, people getting to and from work. It's a public safety issue, potentially, Hurricane Isabel, and in that same regard, it could be a national security issue.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because that absolutely is a concern.
So the Port of Virginia is a huge driver of commerce for the Commonwealth, as you know, and the Panama Canal is being upgraded so these large container ships can come through there, and I believe the Port of Virginia is one of 2 ports now that can handle those large ships. Talk to us about the importance of that and what it means to the commerce of the Commonwealth in your district.
Well, I think that if we didn't have the port and we weren't on the receiving end of some revenue that you know is available to us, and now I'm talking about the entire region, we'd have some serious issues. Of course, along with the port, comes some issues that we need to address. So we go back to transportation.
Right.
Thousands and thousands of tractor trailers that are distributing these the boxes,
Right.
whatever you call them, Woody. I'm sorry, I can't think of it right now. Up and down the East Coast, all over the world, all over the world. So we need to do whatever it takes to make it run efficiently, to make it be the best port for ships to come to, easy to get in, easy to get out. I can't really express the importance of the port. It's such a major, major player in the Commonwealth. And so I will support, and we've got a couple of bills that I've seen that change some things at the port, but you know, you got to be supportive of that. I mean, that's a revenue monster.
And at one time, didn't you have hands-on experience working at that port? I think you started off working for some company at that port.
No, no. I had some family
Okay.
that actually piloted the ships. They came into the port.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember we did talk about
Yeah,
that.
right,
We sure
exactly,
did.
exactly.
But long story short, I mean, you got to deal with the port, and you've got to make that commerce item work. I mean, you just have to do it.
Now, I want to turn your attention to education,
Sure.
K through 12, and especially a dilemma, a really serious one that I wasn't aware of until you and I spoke, regarding the standards of learning and who they apply to. And I know there's a particular matter and a particular student that you've been involved with regarding that. Tell us what's going on with that issue.
I should have been, Woody, more up to date, and that's my fault, because the schools are always asking you to come in and look at their facilities, and that's a really good thing to do. So one of my stops was in York County to a special education class, and I just wanted to see, you know, they've got issues, and I wanted to see what those issues were. And I got there just in time to watch one of these SOL tests being administered. I was kneeling down beside the little girl. Well, she's not a little girl. She's 19 years old. And I was leaning down beside her, and they started this test. And her bless her heart, her fingers were gnarled. And what they did, Woody, was kind of very tenderly, very carefully straighten her hand out. And they took a rock, just a rock off the street, and they rubbed it in her hand very slowly, and they talked to her very tenderly, very caringly, and then they removed the rock. And of course, her fingers, you know, went back in the normal position. Then they did the other hand. They did that with a different rock. One was a porous rock, one was a non-porous rock. And when they got through with that, and I might mention, this is just the science test. They have a history test, they have a reading test, they have the science test, which was going on, and a history. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that's what they are. And I was just dumbfounded when they asked, which is a porous rock and which is smooth rock. I couldn't understand that. And I said, you know, something's got to be done about SOLs to severely handicapped, physically and mental, children in this state. It makes no sense to me. And it's taking valuable time that they could be teaching them something, whatever they've determined their level is, what the state determines their level is. I would think that some of the things that you might want to teach them is how to help the parents at home, because they're struggling. I mean, this is a major issue with families, and so I have met with everybody that I need to meet with. I won't get a piece of legislation this year because we were a little late getting it down, but next year I certainly intend to initiate a piece of legislation that stops SOLs for the severely mental and physically handicapped children. It was so demeaning to me, and bless her heart, she couldn't help it. She couldn't help it. So that's I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but if I'm back here next year, that's certainly going to be one of my initiatives. Now, I'm not down here telling the world this. I have already talked to the folks who can make this happen. The Secretary of Education, Steve Staples, some of those folks, and I'm very serious about that. It's got to be a better way to do that.
Yeah, that's a very serious issue. I'm glad you are advocating that. I had no idea that there were no exceptions. I just assumed that there would be an exception.
It's unbelievable. Right. It really is unbelievable.
But just in terms of education in your district, K through 12, I know you've got community colleges, and of course we've got a plethora of great institutions of higher learning in the Commonwealth. How are we going to be able to ensure that our kids maintain a certain level of education? We don't cut the budget there where it's so important.
Yeah, and I would certainly give the governor tremendous credit for leaving that K through 12 out of the budget. In the budget. That was a strong move, in my opinion, to not be cutting those folks anymore. We've got to find a way, Woody. Number one, we're losing teachers. We're losing them at an extreme high rate. Good teachers, and I've listened to their stories. I can't make a living as a teacher anymore, and that's what I want to do. And the turnover is absolutely mind-blowing. If you get into to the weeds, you'll find out that we're losing lots and lots of good teachers. Some that have been on board 20 years, 25 years. The younger ones, they can't come to class every day, and they have to have child care for their children. Same things that you and I need. But teachers have to get in a different line.
Yeah, and I've even heard teachers using their own funds to buy supplies.
They absolutely are doing that, and that's not something that should be going on. But it's got to be the localities. The localities are being burdened as well, because what the state doesn't fund, if you want your schools to continue to operate the way they've always operated, then what you have to do is put in money. Well, the local jurisdictions, the only place they can get the money is to tax the people, and
the property tax, and they've been hurt because of the housing crisis over the years.
Absolutely. So it's a big circle, and I don't know right now how to make that smaller, but somehow, and we've got a great education committee that hears those things, works on those things, and they want to help. They want to help. I don't think there's a person in the General Assembly, Senate or House, that doesn't believe in education. I mean, wait till next July, August, when that comes up again. I mean, we're going to be all over our districts telling people about education. We're in campaign mode now.
Right.
So let's talk about education, education, education. But when it's over, the campaigning season is over, it's not a topic that's talked about very much.
And obviously it's important for creating jobs, and our community colleges really play a good role. There are kids who don't need to go to college, but they but they need a skill.
They do indeed. They do indeed. And the community colleges do a great deal. It's also a great stepping stone to a four-year institution. The best example I can think of that is Old Dominion University, or Tidewater Community College. It prepares folks for Old Dominion University, and then beyond that is Eastern Virginia Medical School, that a lot of ODU kids come out and if they're accepted, of course, they go to the medical school.
Right. There's that 2+2 program.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
If you maintain a certain grade point,
exactly right,
you are virtually a guaranteed
exactly.
admission.
You're exactly right. And so that process, works very well. I came out of a community college when I got out of the military, and I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I did, and quite frankly, I didn't realize how many things I didn't know.
Well, that brings up another subject. As a veteran, I think the state has gone in the right direction in terms of, for example, if you were a medic overseas and you come back, I think there's a way to expedite the process so you can be certified as an EMS technician, for example. Those kinds of things for veterans.
Oh, it's great. I mean, job creation is a big deal, and some of those folks. Well, when I came back, I had no idea what I was going to do. I mean, in the 60s, what most guys did when they came out of high school went to the shipyard. What most of the ladies did when they graduated, they went to NASA. And that's just how it was. But when you look around now and you see so many people, as you mentioned, I think you're absolutely right. Everybody's not college material. Everybody doesn't want to go to college. And so you've got to have something, workforce development over here, to train them in a job. You know, they have carpentry, they have welders, they have bricklayers, a multitude of jobs that they can train people for. And the shipyard, I mean, I think the shipyard is really in good shape. And it takes just about every one of those people once they finish their course.
Right.
So plenty of places in Tidewater for specialized jobs, and they're offering the training for you to get that.
Mm-hmm. I want to switch subjects,
Sure.
because one of the items in the news as a result of the unfortunate circumstance that the previous governor found himself in and his conviction is ethics reform.
Right.
There were some things done last year, and I think the General Assembly, including yourself, are looking at doing some other things. What are your thoughts? I mean, there is a public perception,
Yes.
whether it's warranted or not, that something needs to be done. What do you think needs to be done?
Well, I think the answer is really simple. I've had this experience last week, and it was an award, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure I wasn't the only one that was going to get it. But when my aide came in the office and she said, "You've got this award," and I said, "Well, what is it?" And she pointed to the one I already had on my desk, and she said, "It costs $160." I said, "I'll apologize to them. I wish I could do it, but I can't." And so I say, just don't take it. I don't go out to eat. Mm-hmm. Not because I don't enjoy lobbyists and talking to them, and they, you know, a lot of areas they've been a lot of help to me. But I'm definitely not going to let them buy me a dinner. I don't care if it's under $50 or not. I'm not going to do it. So I think you just say no, because the least little thing blows up. Your front page news, and you're ruined, quite frankly. You're ruined. Public perception is certainly, you know, a big deal when it comes to that, Woody, but, you know, my office, we're just not accepting anything, and that's not trying to be mean or, or discourteous or any of those kinds of things, but I want my integrity, you know, probably more than I want anything, and people work a long time to get their credibility where it really needs to be, and it would just destroy me if somebody gives me something and I accept it knowing full well I shouldn't do it.
Well, we'll end on that note. Thank you for being here, Delegate Gordon Helsel. Good to see you.
Thank you, Woody. Good to be here.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Cox Communications, connecting Virginians to their government. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans. Mm-hmm.